Hello, everybody. Could you please give a big round of applause, a welcoming round of applause for Mr. Yannick Bolloré, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Yannick, you have a seat here.
I'm sorry about what just happened.
And I'm sorry, we're getting in the way of the Future Foundation presentation here, so we'll get on as quickly as we possibly can. Yannick, please.
Thank you, Charlie.
Very nice to have you with us. Welcome to Montreux.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I'm very honored and happy to be here.
Thank you. Hands up, who has heard of the Bolloré Group, ladies and gentlemen? Interesting. Okay, interesting.
So, a little bit less than BlackBerry, yeah?
Yes, exactly. So, for those of you in the know, the Bolloré Group is, I think, one of France's largest industrial groups, owned and run by Yannick's father, Vincent Bolloré, who, according to the latest Forbes research, I think is the 10th richest man in France. Bolloré Group has interests in mining. It owns a large chunk of Africa. It is extending its businesses into lithium-ion batteries and in all sorts of different industrial complexes around the world. The Bolloré Group is also the owner of Havas and previously a major investor in Aegis Group. Havas has a rich tradition of content and advertising spanning the years, and we're going to uncover a little bit in this interview as to the relationship between Bolloré Group and Havas and some of the family's plans for new investments in media and content over the next few years. So it's a great honor to have Yannick here, and I think we're going to kick off. Let me start. So are you all satisfied with that introduction, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, good, excellent. Any more, just quickly go into our app. You can find more about Yannick and the Havas Group on our extremely good app if you don't have a BlackBerry device. Anyway, so Yannick, one of the key things in this business, key issues in media and marketing, particularly among marketing services groups, is size. Size matters. At least that's what a lot of the CEOs of the big holding groups say in order to achieve buying clout, scalability across the world. Now, since Aegis sold to Dentsu, Havas is now probably a third of the size of the Dentsu group. It's probably, with revenues of just under 2 billion euros, you're probably an eighth of the size of the Omnicoms and the WPPs of the world. Does this put Havas as a group in a very precarious position with regards to being able to compete with some of the other mighty marketing services groups?
Thank you, Charlie. I think this is a very good question. Maybe just to give you more details or a view about Havas. Havas is the fifth or the sixth largest group of communication in the world. You just said with approximately 2 billion euros revenue. We are 16,000 people working in more than 100 countries. Two-thirds of our revenue comes from the creative side, and one-third from the media side, Havas Media. And I think the question about the size is something very important. And I think that Havas has a double advantage regarding its size. The first advantage is that Havas has offices and talent all over the world. This enables us to manage global clients. But the most important is that Havas is not too big not to be able to move or to adapt to the new paradigm of communication. I think that over the last 10 or 15 years, the world of communication has evolved in many ways. The first thing is with the emergence of digital 10 years ago, we have assisted to a fantastic move where all the big media group has bought a huge digital group, which they have put in silo. This was the end of the 90s and the beginning of the year 2000. At this time, Havas was in a very bad financial shape because Havas had did some wrong investment and has failed in its external growth.
You had about $300 or $400 million of debt, didn't you, on the balance sheet?
We had much more. Havas has done a write-off of more than 1 billion euros in year 2002. So for a communication group, this is huge. But finally, the fact that Havas has failed to this external growth gives us the perfect size. Because nowadays, everybody agrees that we need to make people from offline world and from online work more closely together. So with our size, which is quite human, we can make those people work easily together. We can push the integration in a much better way than if we were a big company with big silo. We are not silo-driven. If you allow me to give you an anecdote, you told in your introduction that the Bolloré Group was a very diversified group. Maybe we will talk about it later. But just to give you an anecdote, I remember it was year 2001 or 2002. At this time, the Bolloré Group was a ship owner. And we had a lot of very big ship, 200 meters long, those big port containers. And in the channel, during summer, there was this accident. And two ships has crashed into each other. And it was very spectacular because we were transporting 3,800 BMW. And they have all drowned into the water, into the channel.
Really? Wow. Okay.
So all the media talked about it. And I remember I was talking and asking the captain of the ship, but please tell me, with the size of the ship, you should have seen the ship going right into your direction. And he says, yes, I've seen it, but you have to understand that with ships of this size, at the moment you just turn the steering wheel, and the moment the ship really turns, it's more than 1.5 miles. I think it is the same for communication group or for all the industrial groups. When you are very big, when you are very silo-driven, it takes much longer time to move and to adapt. I think that Havas, with its size, to answer your question, has much more agility than the other groups. So I think this agility gives us a key competitive advantage. So to answer your question, our size, I think, today, it wasn't the same 5 or 10 years ago, but today our size, I think it's perfect for what our client needs.
With regards to the relative scale of the business, you might be able to be agile in principle, but if you look at the Havas footprint, 17% of your revenues are still in France, so still very a French-dominated organization, so quite low, particularly in Asia, in terms of the businesses you have out there. So, I mean, that size issue, I can understand that, but also how do you manage this scale issue as well? Clearly, there's some big gaps that you need to fill in order to be truly globally competitive.
No, you just mentioned our geographical mix. That's true. France is incredibly big, with 19% of our revenue coming from France, where France is much more or less 5 or 6% of the global advertising market. I think that we are not small in the rest of the world, but that we are very big and very leader in France. So that's why the size of France is very big. But I think that we have assisted to the last years to a very strong increase of the part coming from emerging markets. We have a very strong position in LATAM, which represents now more than 10% of our global revenue, and a very increasing position in APAC. So I think our geographical mix is quite good, referring to what the client expects from us.
And with regards to this issue of agility that you've mentioned, so you're making a virtue of the fact that you're relatively a lot smaller than the other 4 or 5 holding companies. What cases recently have you been able to put that agility to work on particular clients' business? How does that speed manifest itself in terms of serving certain clients?
I think that Havas has went into a major reorganization 4 months ago in the media business. We have tried in France the integration since 2007 or 2008. So we have more than 5 years experience in integration. And last December, we have decided to implement this integrated organization with one P&L, one team in our global network. I think that was key for us to do this implementation and this one P&L strategy. If I can give you another anecdote, before being in Havas, I used to be a media owner running TVs and newspapers. And so before, until 3 years ago, all of you were clients of mine. I mean, I was doing roadshow to Havas, to Aegis, to Zenith, to all the different media agencies. And I was thinking, when I was doing the presentation, that the people who were buying the printed edition of my newspaper were not the same people than the one who were buying the digital edition. But at the end, I truly believe and I deeply believe in convergence. For example, I don't know, if you read a newspaper, let's say the Wall Street Journal or whatever magazine, at the end of the day, you won't remember if you have read it on the print edition or on the digital edition, on your laptop, your smartphone. You will just remember the content or the article you have read. So I think that is the same people, depending on their constraints and agenda, that read this content. So I deeply think that in order to be the most efficient, to get the more efficiency, we needed that people adapt and deliver the best media mix, not pushing. We need to realign the interests of the offline and the online world. In a separate P&L point of view, people from the offline world will say, digital is bullshit, you don't care about digital, it's not working, no one is seeing the advertising on digital. And from the online world, they will say, printed edition is dead, you should invest 100% of your media budget in digital. So I think the truth lies, in between. So if we manage to make the interest of our media buyer converge, we will get the best knowledge for our clients. So at the end, we have implemented this new strategy for the last 5 months now. And the main difference with our previous organization, if I might say, is that we have a true different story to tell to our clients. We have been in several pitches, global pitches, over the last weeks, and we will go in more global pitches during the next weeks. And I have nothing to announce yet, but I think we are in a very good position to win more global business. But without this integration, we would have nothing to add vis-à-vis our competitors. I think that Havas, due to his size, to its agility, has developed a capability to be much more innovative and to present a new story, but it's not a fake story. It's a new reality to our clients. And I think clients really want our media agency to push for this integration. So I think we might have good news in the coming weeks.
Well, we look forward to hearing that. So with regards to the ongoing speculation about the motives for the Bolloré Group, your father acquiring Havas, and obviously now the Aegis deal has now gone and happened. Recently, and quite tellingly, I thought, your father chose not to take part in the share buyback scheme with Havas, which indicated to a lot of financial journalists around the world a real intention for the family to maintain a long-term investment in the business. With that in mind, your father made 450 million euros net on his investment in those Aegis shares. Are there plans to plough that back into... it's not bad, is it, ladies and gentlemen? Not bad for...
coming from France, it's very hard and not very well seen to win money, so I don't know.
Okay, well, the net gain on the shares was about 450 million euros, which so a fabulous family investment. Congratulations.
Yes, but to Aegis
would you like to sponsor the Festival of Media next week? Anyway, but my question is a serious one, which is, are you ploughing some of that incremental benefit back into Havas through acquisitions? Are you on the acquisition trail now?
That's a very, very good question. Maybe just to give you a global overview of what we did, the Bolloré Group has been created by my ancestor nearly 200 years ago. It was in 1822. My ancestor, René Bolloré, was a sailor, and in one of his trips to China, he has discovered the way how to manufacture thin papers. And when he came back to Brittany, which is a very nice region at west of France, I really hope you will all come this summer, he has created his own company, which was called the Papeterie Bolloré, the Bolloré Paper Factory. And this company has went through the years, through one revolutions, two world wars. And at the end of the 70s, the Bolloré company was nearly bankrupt because we were present in the carbon paper. You know what carbon paper is? And rank Xerox was coming, so it was more than a disruption. It was the end of carbon paper. And so that's how Vincent Bolloré, my father, just bought back the company with one symbolic franc, and he has went through an incredible recovery. The Bolloré Group has become one of the top 500 largest companies in the world. And he had in mind, his obsession was to diversify the activity of the group in order not to, well, or in order to achieve a better risk distribution. And so 10 years ago, we have invested in media and communication. We are about a 10 billion euros asset group, and we have invested 20% of our assets in communication. It was in France in media owner. We have launched TV and newspapers, and it was also in communication with Havas. And in 2004, when we have invested into Havas, we have discovered that the financial situation of Havas was much worse than we expected. The group had a very high level of debt, and we were really skeptical about the fact that we had a chance to make Havas recover. So we took a stake into Aegis. It was 2005 or 2006, but at this time it was much more a backup plan. In case of major failure of Havas, we could have done some things, I don't know what. And, but in that time, during this period of time, we have tried to make Havas recover. And between 2005 and 2010, we can say that the results have been multiplied by 3. The level of debt has went to 0. So we have taken a decision. It was first to invest into Havas into a long-term point of view, and to deconsolidate Aegis from our accounts. So we have said to the market, it was 2010, that Aegis was not a strategic investment anymore, and so it was like only a financial investment. And last year, we have been very busy because, or very active, because we have done 2 major moves in our portfolio of communication assets. We have increased our share into Havas to 37% by not tendering our shares to the buyback operation, and we have managed to sell our shares to Dentsu, who was interested into Aegis. And so, at the end of the day, I think that the Bolloré Group has proven its long-term commitment into Havas. Now Havas is fully integrated into Bolloré's account. I've been appointed managing director, and I think this is also a key advantage. We have the agility we have already discussed, but we have also the chance or the opportunity to have a family shareholder. And when you are part of a family group, you can develop a long-term strategy policy, which is quite different from being held by a financial group, which is really focused on the quarterly results or even monthly results. We are really focused on the long term. We have no hurry. We will invest into Havas. We have our time. We have really this key advantage that help us to build this new group for the next years and decades, I hope.
And you also now, the family, Bolloré, is now one of the largest shareholders in Vivendi.
Yeah, I've noticed.
How do you think the interrelationship between your advertising assets and your media owner assets will pan out during the course of the next few years? Do you see them coming closer together?
What's funny, I won't answer your question, but what's funny...
Oh, please, you can answer the question.
No, never. What's funny is that in 1998, Havas has been bought by a group called Compagnie Générale des Eaux, which became Vivendi. So Havas, in 1998, was fully part of Vivendi, but they did a spin-off of the advertising part 2 years later. And what's funny is that 15 years later, both Vivendi and Havas had the same shareholder. So that was the funny part, and I think it's really too early to say what's going to happen. What is sure is that we have become shareholder of Vivendi because we have sold our TVs to Canal+, which is a French leader in pay TV, and we have been paid in equity of Canal+ mother company, which is Vivendi. And Vivendi, as maybe you know, is one of the top communication group in the world with approximately 50 billion euros assets in music with Universal Music, Blizzard Activision video games, Canal+, Direct 8, former TV, or in telecom with SFR, with Maroc Telecom, and with GVT. And Vincent Bolloré has joined the board. Tomorrow is General Assembly of Vivendi. And what we have said is we have a long-term commitment into Vivendi as well.
And do you see an opportunity for your clients at Havas to be able to exploit the assets of Vivendi and vice versa? Is there a strategic opportunity there?
I think it's too early to say, but Havas is working closely with every group, which are part of the Bolloré's portfolio, but also with other groups. But we are trying, we are very agile, you know, and very free in our mind, so we will see what opportunity we can get, but it's maybe too early to say that we have a special agreement with any of these assets. I'm sorry not to answer, but...
That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to answer everything. We just imagine we just got a fire, as Roger said, fireside, just you and me. Don't worry about 500 people sitting here who are all tweeting to probably another 2 million people in the collective ecosystem. I'd like, in the time we've got, to talk a little bit more about, if you don't mind, about your father and the family business, if you like. A month ago, I interviewed Sir Martin Sorrell at the Festival of Media Asia, and he said to me that Vincent Bolloré was one of the people that he used the word fear, but he didn't mean it he used it in a business context, in terms of your father's cunning. He said, certainly, Vincent Bolloré was one of the people he feared and respected the most in business. What was it like growing up with Vincent as a dad?
It's a tricky question, but I think it's, honestly, to be totally honest with you, I think it's a great opportunity because when you inherit from so much knowledge and history, I think it's a very good motto to help you to do good things in your life, to work a lot, to develop an entrepreneurship spirit. So I think to grow up in this family was something very helpful, and you know, a lot that gives a lot of motivation. So I think I've been very lucky. Now I hope you will send this moment to my father.
Yes, we can edit it and send it. I hear that your dad has an app. Which he said to the marketplace, just like Maurice Lévy and many sort of French business leaders, unlike perhaps Sir Martin, have set a deadline for their retirement. And it's cast, and he said, but when he's 70, he will leave the business. I hear that there's an app that he has, which is literally counting down the hours and the minutes till that moment happens. Is that true?
That's true. February the 17th, 2022. It will be the 200th birthday anniversary of the Bolloré Group, and he has always said he will retire at this time, so he just did an app that is counting the days and hours and minutes he has left to work. This is a true story. He really had this app, so...
That's hilarious. And then do you see that you, as one of the family members, going in and taking a wider role within the Bolloré Group, or do you see your future expanding the media assets within the Bolloré Group?
I think I won't answer this question as well, but no, clearly my present is in the media and the communication, so I really see my future with those assets, and after we will see how the group will be in 10 years. We have time. I have brothers who are working very well as well. We are working very well, and so I think we got plenty of time to answer this question.
Is it true that at the Bolloré offices in Paris, there's a secret corridor which only the Bolloré family can access?
So it's not secret anymore. Thank you very much. But that's true. We had this secret corridor. The Bolloré Tower and the Havas Tower are next to each other. And we have done this secret corridor. Well, this was the secret corridor, so now we have done this corridor. So you can access very
you heard it
easily
here
that
first.
inside.
So if you do visit the Havas offices in Paris, you must insist on accessing that corridor. Final question. One of the biggest investments that the Bolloré Group are making outside of the communications business is in electric vehicles, batteries, clean technology, and so on, which clearly is of huge interest, as we saw with the Itaú examples. You know, sustainability is so crucially important. You're now piloting a scheme in Paris for electric cars. How's that going? And do you see that as a scalable opportunity, and possibly something that can link to the clients within the group?
What's funny, we were talking about long-term investment, and the fact that to be part of a family group gives you, the opportunity to develop this long-term investment. The example you just mentioned with our electric car is the perfect example. We have started to invest 17 years ago in the development of a battery which would be able to store energy in a very huge quantity. And this battery, which is lithium metal polymer, is now able to power a car, electric car, that could go to 250 kilometers autonomy at a speed of more than 130 kilometers per hour. So this is key. We have launched our electric car in Paris last January, 14 months ago. It's already a big success. It's amazing how it changed life. You have zero dioxide carbon emission, and you have zero noise. That changes completely the perception you have of the city. And we have invested a lot of cash, because we have invested 1.7 billion euros, which is, for a family group based in Brittany, it's a lot of money. And we are also planning to invest in storage of electricity for stationary purpose. So I think we will be able to create a real diversification in this new field. I think it might be one of the key assets for the future of the Bolloré Group, and we are very, very, very proud to have invested in this sustainable field.
Thank you. And it's fascinating to hear your explanation of the various different investments your family have made, and to hear and understand a little bit more about how media fits within that strategic portfolio. We've run to time, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, but Yannick will be here for another few hours during the breaks for anybody to, again, ask proper face-to-face questions. You'll probably have far better questions than I certainly did, and I've noticed on the Twitter feed that is indeed the case. But we've run to time, we're going to move on, but please, can I have a huge round of applause for a fascinating conversation with Yannick Bolloré, ladies and gentlemen.
Merci.